Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and to part 2 of my conversation with Meredith Arthur, the author of Get Out of My Head. In this part, I actually talk about how we need to embrace our awkwardness, right? And she gives me many ways to kind of channelize that to get the most out of it and so much more. But before we get into the conversation, I wanted to smash that bell icon and hit subscribe. Go straight in to my chat with Meredith Arthur. I think one of the other points which I think really stood with me is that you actually say in between that like a dose of levity at the right moment can magically loosen overthinking's grip.
I mean, that is just hard. That's just what I've experienced in my life.
At some point, and I don't think, and so I want to dig into that because I feel that can also be misconstrued as saying crack a joke when someone's feeling, when someone's overthinking it. That doesn't help.
No. No, no, no. It's actually about them. It's
Yeah.
about them. Part of it is understanding the other person enough to help them. It doesn't work the same way for everyone. For
Yeah.
me, if someone makes fun of me, like my husband is like, "Oh, that garbage is going to come in and it's going to take over our house." If no one picks up that garbage, that makes me laugh and I
Yeah.
feel very understood. I'm like,
Mm.
"Yeah, that is what it seems like." And I know it's absurd, but it makes me laugh and then I feel better.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
everyone is like that.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of understanding how to help that person feel that.
Yeah. I've actually, and when I, and this made me think that I'm that person who will see something, think of something, and laugh by myself randomly in between people, and everyone look at me like, "What are you laughing at?" Now in my head, I'm like,
I
maybe I
love
was
that.
just feeling awkward in the situation, and I found something to
Yes.
make me smile, and I just did,
Yes.
and I'm happy now.
That is such a great example. Things you have to understand about yourself is that you have more coping strategies than you probably realize.
Yeah,
That is a coping strategy. It's a great one. I mean, I love it. Like nothing
yeah,
makes me happier than like seeing somebody laugh or laughing or they come up with something funny. Like that's to me also very bonding, which is like another coping, right? I feel close to someone. If I'm awkward and I say I'm awkward and they're like, "Yeah, I know." Like we get bonded and that's helpful too.
So I used to do this in school and college. I never spoken about this in public. Um, when I was in a class where in my head, I was bored. But if I just genuinely felt like I just didn't want to bother being there, but I'm sitting in the classroom, I would imagine my professor in diapers, right? And that would just automatically make me laugh, right? I feel
Oh
comfortable.
my
I'm like,
god, that's
I'm okay with this class. I'm
hilarious.
like, this is the most boring lecture on earth. This guy's, but
Oh
I'm
my god,
imagining him
it's
diapers.
hilarious.
But now that we're talking about this, and as soon as I said this, and then you responded, and I was like, wait, I just told my daughter to do that because she's 4.5. She has this. She behaves in sometimes exactly like I do. Like when there is a lot happening, she kind of. And I told her, whenever you feel awkward, imagine somebody in diapers. And I said, but don't tell anyone because now everyone knows it's on the podcast. But I'm like, it's fine.
I love it. I love it.
I feel there are coping mechanisms, and as random as that sounds, now it makes sense in my head.
That's right. That's right. And it's great. I mean, that's the other thing. It's great. Like these things we do that work, we should keep doing. That's one of the
Yeah,
things about the book is like experiment. Not everything is going to work. Each person
yeah,
is so different. So just keep experimenting and know that like even the effort of experimenting is positive.
yeah. What have you seen that has worked? And what have you kind of used? What have you seen some people from the community use that have really helped? Because not everyone's going to do diapers like me.
Oh my god, I like the diapers though. I mentioned catchphrases in the book, and
Yeah.
catchphrases really help me. So
Mm,
the idea of a catchphrase is that in certain situations, I can help myself know what action to take
mm.
based on the catchphrase
The
that
catchphrase.
guides
Yeah.
my behaviors.
Yeah.
So the catchphrase I use in the book is protect the head. I
Mm.
mean, this has been years now of using that catchphrase.
Yeah.
And it's in a situation where you're not sure, like, should I do this thing, or should I meet up with these people?
Mm.
Your deeper question is like, what is that doing to my head? Am I
Mm.
protecting the head? Should I
Yeah.
go on social media for 10 hours in a row? Protect the head.
No.
Like, how do you do that in a way where you're protecting the head?
But how do you know when to
You
use it?
don't, probably. That's a great question. My husband will say, protect the head to me in
Mm.
certain situations, and it helps me learn which situations I should be thinking of that. I think
Mm.
having someone else who helps you with your catchphrases. Now, some of them are very clear. Like, remember when I said if only? I don't allow
Mm.
any sentences to start if only. So that's a very clear, like, if a sentence begins
I say,
if
use that
only,
so often.
that's it. No.
Yeah.
So literally there are some things where you're like, I like objective because I know how to
Mm.
deal with it. So if only
Yeah.
is very objective. Like, don't do it.
Yeah.
And don't compare. Like, if I feel a comparison, can't do it. No, don't compare.
I think if only is such an interesting one, right? It's almost and you write about that as well, right? But like you just focus on the past, so you don't have to focus on what you have to do right now. It's a defense mechanism. Say, I'll keep worrying about the past. I'll
Yes.
overthink what happened, so that I don't have to do what I have
Yes.
to do right now. And
Yes.
it's not even about the future. It's about what you have to do right now. And I feel that there's so much time spent on the past. No, I could have done this. Oh, I didn't do this well. If only I had. I do an if only I had not worn a red t-shirt and worn a green t-shirt instead. I'm superstitious about it. Whenever I wear anything red before an important meeting, in my head it's going to go wrong. So even though I have them, I won't wear them. And if I forget and I wear them and something goes wrong, I'm like, see, if only I'd worn the green t-shirt.
Exactly. Exactly. I
It-
mean, but superstition is an interesting. I feel like I should do something on superstition,
yeah,
because superstition is the desire for control. It
yeah,
says, if only I could control,
yeah.
but you can't. Like, the superstition is simply an expressed desire. Now, you could say to me, look, diapers on the teacher and if only, they're both sort of strategies to help me feel
Mm,
better. But I think
yeah.
only the diapers on the teacher actually works. I would say that
Mm.
the if only is a strategy that does not work.
Because it pulls you back.
It
Um,
Yeah, it doesn't for me. Yeah.
yeah. And in many ways, I think the if only takes you into a negative headspace. It doesn't it doesn't make you laugh. It makes you question everything you've done. And when you question everything you do, you question everything you're going to do. And and that's what I often get stuck with. Like, I'm a person who will sit here and, like, for example, we're recording this. I spent an extra 20 minutes overthinking the lighting of my room when I was setting up the light
Mm.
for our recording. I needn't have. I've set this light up here many times, but every time, if only like last time the lighting wasn't that great. It's just that and I don't think it's. Do you think this connects to being trying to do things perfectly? Do you think there's a connection there?
I mean, you can that answer is inside of you. I have a
Hmm.
suspicion
Hmm.
that it's a desire, that it's a mechanism of trying to feel better. I have a feeling
Hmm.
that it's like, I'm uncomfortable that we're going to do this recording. I'm uncomfortable that I have to be seen and on camera. And
Yeah.
so I am going to, like, this morning, right? I woke up and I was like, oh, I'm baggy, but I don't want to wear makeup. I don't wear makeup. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it. It really is okay. Like, you're not going to be judged for that.
Yeah.
Y-
Yeah.
you're here to talk about your ideas with someone else who understands them, who has read
Yeah.
your book, who is
Hmm.
like of you. And I think that's why I'm always like, we are the same, we are similar. That gives me a lot.
Hmm.
Maybe that's my own mechanism, but that gives me a lot of peace and comfort. It makes me feel like I have friends around the world, no joke. I have a map on my site that's the lighthouse map, and it's just other overthinkers, and it's
Mm.
free and people can put their lighthouses up, and when you go onto the
Yeah.
map you can scroll in and see if there's one near you. But the
Yeah.
whole goal was to feel like you are safe. You are safe because other people do this. We are
Yeah.
not alone. And when you're around someone else who does it, you can laugh together. Like you can
Yeah.
laugh that you worried about the light over and over, and that's safe.
And I think safety also comes with you kind of feeling like you are not going to be judged. I think we often kind of worry about being judged. Okay,
Yes,
I'm going to do
that's
this.
right.
I'm going to do this in the worst possible way. I'm going to do this. And you write about being beginners. I think that I remember that's the one I tried. I think I shared that day. When we first connected, and the fact is, when you start something, you're always going to be awkward about it. I mean, I think of anything which I started. I remember my first ever podcast recording. My pilot was the worst pilot. I mean, in my head at least, because I only asked questions. I didn't give a point of view. I didn't say anything else. I had two people in the room, and I asked the same. I asked them question one, question two, question three, and it was done. And we listened to it. I'm like, what was that? Like, um, and but they said it was fine because they were the people who were helping me produce my first show. And so I was like, they knew it. They were part of the process. I still felt comfortable because they were part
Yeah,
of my bubble of
good.
sorts.
You trusted them and they trusted you, and they were not judging you. You were not judging you for being new, which is
Yeah.
so important. And the line, Varun, of that is you have to be gawky to get
Hmm.
graceful. So you start gawky. We all do. Go
Yeah.
ahead, though. You were going to ask a question.
No, what you just said actually is the perfect point because when you're beginning something, and I feel now then comes the problem. We overthink before we begin as well. We worry that day one, I'm going to start something. I need to be great, or people will laugh.
Yeah, or they will just think, "Oh, I thought he was smarter than that," or "I thought she was funnier than that," or "I thought she was better than that." And by the way, when I was starting my site, I did actually get judged. I had a friend who said to me, "I don't know why you're doing this. This isn't interesting." There's no She was like, it was like my worst fear happened.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
said like, "This, I don't know. I'm just not interested in this, and I just don't think this is good."
Yeah.
And I was pissed. I was upset. I was really hurt, but I also was upset about it. Um, but it didn't stop me. So
Yeah.
I'm glad about that. I wasn't that one person's opinion. Now, if that had happened over and over, but it did happen.
Yeah. Do you
But
think that?
now I realize like, hey, she's never started anything. She's
Hmm.
scared. Like that was like her being like, you're a beginner. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
beginner.
So what? I guess that's the response there. Like, because what I was just thinking of is that when you start something, the assumption is that, oh, I'm going to be judged. I won't be good at it. So why try anyway? But, and I would always turn around someone and say, just start off like you would when you were a kid. But then I look at my daughter, I'm like, I look at other kids, I'm like, they worry about being judged as well. Now, I think it's innately
Right.
something, and I don't know where, does it naturally come to some people or is it something that we do early on?
It's vulnerability. Don't you think it's vulnerability? Like it's going outside of your
Mm.
comfort zone, right? Even your daughter probably feels that. Like, I don't want to go outside of my comfort zone, which
Yeah.
is what growth is.
Yeah. And also, when you look at it, it's also about the fact that you're trying to figure out maybe if we if we teach people to learn to enjoy the weirdness, the gawkiness of it. So I'm connecting levity to the gawkiness.
Yes, by the way, that's what I do. I gave a talk at Pinterest a month ago that was about awkwardness. And the whole purpose was this is,
Celebrated.
here are stories of awkwardness. Here is like what we love about awkwardness in popular culture. I mean, it was the whole premise of my talk is like it is awkward for me to be here talking to you right now. I feel awkward, but it
Yeah.
also makes me laugh. And like the fact that you're those of you that are laughing, also by the way, I don't feel like I'm for everyone. I feel
Hmm.
like the people I'm for, I'm really for. And that's what I mean about like overthinkers around the world. Like those are my people, but I'm not meant this other
For
person who
everyone.
criticized me, she's not my person.
Hmm.
But my overthinkers that I am, that's why my book is dedicated to overthinkers cuz I'm
Yeah.
like that's us. Like we support each other. We have each other's backs.
I think also the energy we use, right? If you worry about the people who aren't your people, I'm going to use this term. In this, my people is a thing, and I'm actually going to connect this to something which my wife says, and she says you got to collect people who fill up that. She calls it her dining table, the dining table in of her life. Um,
I love that.
and what she says is that you got to find those people, collect those people who will eventually land up on that dining table in your life towards the end of your life. Like who do you want on that table?
I love
Collect
that.
them. Everybody else you don't need.
She's very wise. She's wise.
Yeah, as my sister says, I punched up. Or is that the right term to use?
Yeah, no, that's right.
Uh, you know, the other piece, and we were just talking about energy, and there's this one part where you kind of talk about that what we use our energy on is so important. Like we can spend our energy on people who are pulling it out of us. And I remember you even write about the fact that when those waves come to you, when that wave of anxiety hits you, you got to always note down what might have started it. And over time, you will realize that these are my triggers. These are people,
Yes.
things that kind of trigger it. Um,
Yes.
and also in some way pull away from the energy some things suck from you. So you're spending your energy on the right things and not on the things that really pull them out of you. So, and I guess that makes sense. I mean, it makes sense, and I don't know why we've never looked at it that way.
Well, by the way, you we when we were talking about your tweet, like I sensed that there would be I called it red dot in the book
Mm.
because it was
Yeah,
came back
yeah,
to an old story, but I
yeah,
sensed that there would be that. And
yeah,
so that's what made me and you said, "Do you wanna do the podcast?" And I said, "Absolutely." And the more you just keep trying to sense it and have it
mm,
confirmed and sense it and have it confirmed, it actually is a
yeah,
great thing in your life. Like you find like, "Oh, I don't have to spend time. I can say no if I don't sense it and
yeah,
just build the strength of sensing it when it is there."
yeah. And I think it's a better way of saying, because there's one thing I've seen shared a lot on the internet, which I feel is easy to say but tough to do, which is that you need to you know, b- don't look at all your friends and only keep those around who give you the right kind of energy. Now that makes give you the right kind of value, but that makes it seem transactional. Like, oh, you're not valuable to me, so I'll push you away. What you just
Yeah, I
said, I
don't
think
like
that
that.
makes more sense. Is that you suck the energy out of me, so I'd rather not have you around.
Yeah, and sometimes there can be a purpose to that as well, by the way,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's red dot and blue dot, and there can be a purpose to blue dots. You just really need to be intentional about it.
Explain red dot and blue dot for people.
Yeah. So red dot. So this came back to a story of when I was right out of college. I had a friend who was working with a writer who was going through her address book because it was a literary assistant. She was an assistant to this writer, going through her address book and noticed all these stickers next to people, blue
Hmm.
or red. And she asked the writer, like, what's going on with these stickers? And the writer said, well, my therapist told me put a blue dot next to the ones that suck energy and a red dot next to the ones who bring energy into my life.
Yeah.
So my friend and I called each other red dots because we knew we
Hmm.
brought energy into my life. When I met my husband, I knit him a scarf with a big red dot in the middle because he is a red dot. And red dots are fantastic, right?
Yeah.
But it's not that you don't need any blue dots or even purple. Like there are
Hmm.
people that do both, right?
Hmm.
It's just that you need to be intentional. If you have somebody in your life who complains all the time, that's probably a blue dot.
Hmm.
And you probably don't want to spend a ton of time around them, but there could
Hmm.
be certain situations where like that is helpful to you to be able to complain with this person. I'm not sure, like you have to decide for yourself, but mostly you need to know.
I know exactly you're talking about a person who I know. I have so many friends. I have like 5 names that have come to mind who I only could talk to when I want a crib. I call them my
Exactly.
cribbing friends. I just call them crib about the world, crib
Ex-
about everything else. Go away. Hopefully, do that over a drink, so
exactly.
it makes it more fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. And so it's not, so I would say if somebody's like get rid of the friends that blah blah blah, it's not that. It's be intentional.
Yeah.
And if you're sitting there and you need to reach out to someone, start to build the relationships to the red dots. I've had
Hmm.
new friends. I've had people who I can just are red dots. They reach out and they say, let's get together. And I'm like, yeah, this is a new friend. I'm in my 40s,
Yeah.
but like, this is the new path I want to build.
Yeah. And I think what that also does, it's like what you're saying is just follow the energy, right? Follow the energy
Yes.
you want to channel within yourself from others, from
Yes.
things. Um, I've realized as I've gotten older that you don't have to do everything. Like, the tendency is, I think that's where overthink comes also, right? You want to do all the cool things. Um, I want to make
Yeah,
TikToks.
that's
I can't
right.
make TikToks. You want to do all the cool stuff, right? And then you like when you try to do it, you just like, okay, I'm not enjoying doing this, but everybody seems to want to do it, so I'll do it. Like I love podcasting because honestly, in my head, while we have a camera on, I just love talking to a mic and talking to people. So in my head, I'm not doing this for camera. I'm doing it for a conversation. But tell me talking to a
Yes.
mic, which I'm now learned to, like you said, like practicing, putting yourself out there. And would I really want to do it if I had a choice? Maybe not. But I talk into a mic, so maybe just follow the energy. I guess that's the essence of that.
And feel like it's okay for you to, you have agency. Like you're not just forced into everything. Like you have agency to be like, I get a lot of energy from talking into the mic and I don't want to be on camera. If you ever decided that that other part was sucking too much away, you have agency to change accordingly. And I know with careers and like putting yourself out there, that can feel like you're forced into things, but you can always work to your strengths. You can always like push into the things that feel good and sort of minimize. It's not like you can
Yeah,
get rid of them, but minimize the stuff that
yeah.
doesn't.
And to minimize, you even spoke about a few things you can do, right? So here's the thing: the internet is all about affirmations, but a lot of the
Mm,
affirmation spiel out there, I think that makes you overthink more than anything else, right? Like, okay, because people are putting
mm.
affirmations out there in the most internet way possible. If there's no other way I can put it down, like let's make it cool to put
Yeah.
online. So like I'll put on a post-it, I'll put my hand in front, or I'll find the right kind of image, and I have like, so you're gonna have all that stuff there. And but at some point, when I was reading about affirmations here, and remember you were saying that talking to yourself is like messages to yourself. That kind of makes sense, because you're kind of setting your own mood. You're not expecting someone else to set your mood for you, if that makes sense.
Definitely. And part of it, even with the affirmation world, it's not all bad. It just gets generic and you lose sense of the actual connection, which happens inside of you, where you're like, again, it's kind of back to red dot, blue dot. Like, is this piece of information resonating? And it's, you start moving so fast, you don't even know. You don't even know any. It's just like you're not in touch with that.
And I feel also what happens is that sometimes affirmations become negative towards someone else. Like you're trying to tell
Mm.
yourself you're awesome, the other person doesn't understand you. And
Mm.
in my head, I'm like,
Don't
is that the
compare.
right way to do it?
Don't compare. Don't compare. To me, that's a don't compare.
Hmm.
That's a compare. That's what I'm hearing when I hear that.
Yeah.
Like, if you're like, that person doesn't get it, that's that. I don't know why, but when I hear that, I'm like, don't compare.
Yeah. Because it's the same as looking at the past, right? You're just trying to find some way to deflect it, and
Yes.
deflecting feels like classic overthinking as well.
Yep.
That's what we do, right?
Yep.
It's that I say that if you look at it, Twitter is all about overthinking, because you're saying what about.
Oh my
Is
god.
whole Twitter is like what about,
Yes.
on
Yes.
everything that happens in the world.
Agree.
Thank you so much for listening to part two of my conversation with Meredith Arthur. I'm sure there's a lot of insights you've gotten here, and you might want to kind of go back to some of those and put those down and use in your own life. But to make sure you don't miss the last part of my conversation with her, make sure you smash that bell icon and hit subscribe.